G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Alright, welcome to Weekly Check-In 2, the new series where I try and keep you up to date every week on how I am tracking. And I tell you what, there's some big news. For two and a half years, I have successfully ducked and weaved COVID-19, but unfortunately, that has all come to an end. I tell you what though, I've done a pretty good job because I work at two places, which I've probably mentioned on the podcast before. Bunnings Warehouse, which is a large retail establishment here in Australia, very famous. And the other one is the Cambridge Hotel, which is a live music nightclub venue here in Newcastle. So on any given week, I would come into contact with thousands of people, not even joking, thousands. And yet somehow I've been able to avoid the spicy cough right up until about, yesterday at 8 o'clock. So what that means is I'm now in mandatory 7-day isolation. Now, I've spoken about this on the podcast before, my living arrangements, but I'll go through it again. So where I live is like a really crappy hotel. There's like 42 rooms. I'm room 32. You get your own little fridge, you get your own basin, and you get a very small, pokey room. I have to stay in here for 7 days, not allowed to leave. Literally, like I've got nothing. There's no lounge. All I've got's a bed, a TV, and my desk. That's it. It's like prison. And now I have to stay in here for 7 days, mandatory from the New South Wales government. Am I going to go insane? Probably. And I tell you what, you're going to hear all about it up to date, blow by blow, here on the Dysregulated podcast. That is for sure. But I tell you what, it is like staring down the barrel of a gun. It's going to be a very difficult 7 days. This is day 2, and already I am bored out of my brains. And what's even worse is that because I'm so disorganised, and I blame the ADHD for this and the lack of routine I have in my life, I wouldn't say that my fridge is overflowing with food and drinks. I already know that I'm going to run out of probably 3 medications within the week. That's olanzapine, Seroquel, and Vyvanse. And that's not good news because theoretically I can't go out and get any more. So I don't really know how that's going to go. So please hold a candle out for poor old Elliot as I struggle through. But as I said, I'm going to keep you updated with everything that goes on while I'm in this mandatory isolation period. All right, let's get on some good news. So the last episode, 2 episodes ago, I mentioned I was going to the Black Dog Institute in Sydney, going to the Big Smoke to do some recording and some filming about my story for an app that they're creating. And I tell you what, it went brilliantly. Never before have I received positive feedback like I did this day. It was amazing. But what was even more interesting was how strong my inner critic was getting up and saying, "They're wrong, Elliot. You're an idiot. Your points aren't worth mentioning. You're doing a terrible job. You're not getting your message across. Why even bother?" So this is going to form the basis of another episode very soon, all about pushing back against the inner critic. But as I said, the good news was these researchers, clinical psychologists, thought I did an amazing job. And I tell you what, I don't know if I quite would agree and go to that full extent, but I thought I did pretty good, which is great. So hopefully soon I'll have some of the materials that I filmed and recorded, and I'll chuck them up here on the podcast as well, because I think it went pretty good. So hopefully some people out there it will resonate with and make their journey that little bit easier. That would be such an honour. What else? Well, just recently I've started seeing a new psychologist. So that was interesting. This is the first new psychologist I've had in a few years. So my fear and trepidation, anxiety was really sky high when I went in there. But the good news is I think it went well. Now, because I am an honours graduate in psychology, I tend to go into these sorts of settings trying to dictate terms. You know, I know more about me than you guys, and I probably know more about psychology than you guys too. Now, of course, that's probably not true, but that is a bit of the attitude sometimes I fall into when going to see psychologists and other mental health professionals. And this time I really focused heavily on making sure that I went in there with a clear mind, a clean slate, and said, right, I'm just going to listen. I'm going to tell my story, definitely, but I'm not going to put any sort of opinion in of where treatment should go or what I think I have or what I think's going on. I'm just going to tell the story bare bones as it is and see where we end up. And the good news is, I think this is good news, is that the psychologist ended up at the same point where I have ended up. So we're on the same page, which is a great start to our therapeutic relationship. So we're going to treat my story as a bit of a trauma-based sort of affair. So emotional trauma is a big part of, I guess, my presentation, and we're going to treat it as such, which will be interesting. And we're definitely looking at theories and approaches when it comes to stuff like the right brain. So if you haven't listened to my episode on left brain, right brain theory, please do, because it's a cracker. And a new episode will be following that, part 2, very soon, about the therapies and approaches, depending on if you're left or right brain dominant. And it appears for me, who is right brain dominant, we are going to do some therapies, which I'll mention in this episode, which is specifically for the right brain side of things. So that's exciting. So again, I'll keep you updated on this weekly check-in, how the new psychologist goes and how our therapeutic relationship hopefully grows into something really good, and I get some better mental health outcomes as a result. So that's exciting, very exciting. So that's probably the latest for me. The big news is the 7-day isolation. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go insane. I'm a little bit concerned about how this is all going to go down, but as I said, you're going to know about it every step of the way here on the podcast. And the good news is it'll give me the opportunity to do more episodes because, well, what else is there to do? So anyway, that's a quick little check-in. Coming soon as far as episodes go is part 2 of the left brain versus right brain series, which I'm very excited about. I've almost finished my little research that I'm doing for it because I want to make sure it's accurate, of course. What's also coming is an episode titled Pushing Back Against the Inner Critic, and that will be a lot about my experiences at Black Dog through the week, which went very well, even if that little inner monologue was saying that it wasn't going well at all. So that's going to be exciting. What also was coming up very soon was the first of the interview series with a friend of mine. We were going to go through his story and get his insights for the podcast as well. But unfortunately, because of the whole 7-day isolation thing, we're going to have to put that on the back burner for now. But that is coming soon. I've got the equipment, the recording equipment for it. I'm going to go out there, talk to some of the people I've met along my journey, talk about their journey, and it's going to be amazing because we're going to get all these different insights into different people's stories, and if we put it all together, I'll tell you what, we're going to come up with some pretty good ideas on how to improve all of our mental health outcomes, which is amazing. All right, well, that's it for now. Just a little quick one to check in. There's going to be a lot more coming soon, that's for sure, because I'm bored out of my brains already. So thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll catch you next time on the Dysregulated podcast. And if you're enjoying the show, of course, please like, subscribe, and share it around with your mates. I'm Elliot Waters. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Goodbye.